Imagine a social network built for you, not for profit. Imogen Network puts control back in your hands, combining AI-driven personalization with blockchain-backed ownership. Your data, your content, your rules. Create stunning content, build genuine connections, and monetize your work, all in a decentralized, transparent platform where privacy is prioritized. Ready to experience social networking reimagined? Join Imogen.network today and take control of your digital world. Imogen Network, empowering connections, redefining ownership.
A lot of other, beats that you made. Would you say that you're one of the originators of trap music?
Trap the actual music itself, like the like the
Yeah,
beats. Yes, of
yeah.
course. I don't know what our hang up is with history. I think that's going to be one of the detriments for us. We feel like giving people their credit will take away from us, and it don't. It's a lot of stuff that I created and I started, bro. I don't I know I wasn't the first person to put a tag, like an actual tag on my beat, putting your name in front of a beat. Um, if I'm not the first, I'm definitely the second or third, but I think I'm the first person that started putting your name, not a tag, but your name in front of a beat. It's a lot of stuff I don't get credit for, bro. But like we were Southerners, we were raised that you don't brag on yourself. That's for another man or woman to do. But I made a lot of things happen in hip hop that people don't talk about. And especially with Southerners, but especially these kids, people will take our innovations, but then they don't want to give people credit, bro. Now I always say this, man. I watched the whole industry jack the Migos style, jack the
Hmm.
way that they rapping, and then they get on TV and act like they didn't just rip them boys' whole style off.
Hmm.
And we just can't say, hey man, them folk dope, bro. Like I give you an example, bro. Beats by the Pound did all of the original No Limit music. I
Hmm.
personally think them boys should be on the same level of Timberland and the Neptunes. Like what Master P did, however you gotta give his business acumen credit. Them
Yes.
boys put out more music. They changed the whole way everybody did music. Matter of fact, I've never seen a group of artists who had their own section. I never forget this. It was country, it was blue, rhythm and blues, there was rap, and then it was No Limit. Damn.
Mm.
No Limit had their own section in our record stores, bro. But we don't even artists couldn't even fathom putting out two albums in 1 year. It
Mm.
would take artists 3 4 years 2 years to put out albums, like, and people took their work acumen without giving them credit in history, bro. And I don't think that's fair. So as it pertains to me, the funny thing is it's not the responsibility for people from New York or from LA or Chicago. Southerners don't give Southerners their credit. And so
Mm.
how is anybody else going to give us credit when we don't pay homage? Like, bro, I live in Atlanta. I barely ever hear Outkast. You not gonna I barely ever hear Little John. I barely ever hear Usher. You hear Usher a little bit more because but
Mm.
like you shouldn't be able to go to Mississippi and not hear David Banner at least one time on the
Right.
radio a week. Like you gonna go to LA and hear some Dre or Snoop somewhere, whether it's in the restaurants, on the radio. When you go to New York, you're gonna hear a little Tribe Called Quest, maybe not, maybe not a lot, but you're gonna hear a Run DMC instrumental. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's our disconnect with history and us wanting to give it up. I don't know if y'all ever noticed this, man, but I would always, in my music, I would always give it up to the West Coast. And the reason why I would always give it up to the West Coast, the Bay Area, because they came right before us. And I watched for a long time how they tried to sort of like just scrub the West Coast out. And I was like, no, man, I'm not gonna let them do that to West Coast music. Because as soon as hip hop moves on from the South, I want somebody to come back and remember us. I want somebody to give us credit. You know what I'm saying? And give us love. And if I can show why I'm popular and why I'm hot, then I can give it up to the West Coast. And now they don't need that no more. They back up on their feet. But like I always tried to give reverence to history. I've always tried to give reverence to those before and show some love to the kids. We just gotta treat each other better, bro. That's it.
Indeed, I would love to hear because you started off the interview saying that you're probably in the best space of your life, and that was great to hear. Talk about that journey, coming from a couple years ago where you were beginning to really come into your own till right now at the pinnacle of your life. If you don't mind sharing.
Well, if you want to support me, go to davidbanner.com, go buy some stuff. What
Okay.
happened with me, bro, is that I kept really quiet. I was an independent artist a whole lot longer than what people knew. I was off Universal way before, maybe 7 years before people actually knew that I was, because I understand the psychological place that our people are in. We connect with what white people say, independent. These kids are a lot better now than we were, but to say that you're black and independent, you know, was almost like a double negative because of the way that we have allowed people to make us feel. Even though we anything that has to do with work, for the most part, our people created, but that's another thing.
Mhm.
Um, but what I realized, I went to Steve Rifkin, and I respect Steve so much. I told Steve, I had talked to the head of Universal, and he said, David Banner, you a smart man. I'm gonna tell you what's really going on. He broke down how record companies really work. I don't know what made that white dude want to tell me the truth, but he
Mhm.
sat down and broke it. He showed me how they work records, how the budgets are commingled, the whole nine, bro. And so they owed me money. And I went to Steve and said, I don't even want the money, bro. Just because me and Steve had a pretty good relationship. I was like, bro, I can't be you signed to you. And he looked at me and he said, David Banner, are you sure? I said, yeah. Because what people don't even remember is Like a Pimp is what thrusted SRC into fame.
Mhm.
And then right after that happened, then Akon blew all the way up, and then it kept going and kept going and kept going. But people forget that. It was Like a Pimp that put SRC on his feet after Steve Rifkin had left Loud. And nobody ever talks about that either. But because I remember it in the New York paper, what it said Steve Rifkin is having a banner of a year.
Hmm.
And but I went to Steve and I asked Steve, I said, Steve, man, I want to be free, bro. Like, I can't be you signing you. He said, are you sure? He asked me again. I said, yes, I'm sure. He said it'd be done today. He let me go that day.
Okay.
And so what I did was, what people don't know is, most of my records, I started them and working independently myself.